We're continuing our series, exploring these words we find on our wall, and you'll find on the slide, words that come to us from the former Meewasin Valley United Church, now SSUC Saskatoon, values that they placed before themselves each time they gathered in their space at St. Andrew's College, words we've been exploring the ways in which we are rooted in. And today we're exploring being rooted in balance. As we take ourselves into this circle, we bring ourselves into community with one another. I invite us to sing our way into this time in which we are together. We want to welcome each of you to this spiritual gathering. Each of you here in this space on this cold winter morning in Edmonton, those of you gathered in St. Andrew's College in Saskatoon on an even colder winter morning. We can give you this encouragement: warmer air is coming. We're beginning to send it your way today. This community is a safe place for all sizes and all ages and all colors, all cultures, genders, sexualities, gender identities, religions or none. All of us, whoever we are, wherever we come from, whatever is happening in our lives, whatever is not happening in our lives, this is a safe place for us as we take our place with one another in community. We want to particularly welcome those who are gathered as SSUC Saskatoon, and we have a still picture of them this morning. And here they are, gathered in front of a warm fire. They gathered even earlier. They've been together now for an hour, sharing brunch and preparing a few things for us this morning. And Chris is with the community that's gathered there. And we're going to take a moment to send our wave and greeting back to them. We'll ask the folks in the booth to get ready to have us give them a wave hello. So we'll say, Happy New Year, SSUC Saskatoon. Happy New Year, SSUC Saskatoon. And whether we're gathered in Edmonton or we're gathered in Saskatoon, we are partners of Treaty 6, those who have responsibility for respectful and reconciling relationship with those who have been in this land longest, those of us who have come to this land as our adopted homeland, those of us who have newly landed in this land as refugees or immigrants, those coming to make this place home. We're grateful for the gift of this good and generous land that is open to feed us, that has provided home for us, and we take our place alongside the Cree peoples and the Métis peoples who have been here for so many years to make our land rich and free and safe for all of us. Each time we gather, we remember that our beginnings are in light, a great explosion of light, a great flaring forth, a big bang, from which we come and by which our spirits are lit with the primal fires of the universe. We light this candle, knowing that we are those who hold within us the light of life, and we seek to share it in this time that we are gathered with one another. I want to invite any children that are with us today, or those that are Leadership for Kids Spirit, any who want to have a little more part of what we're going to do here together and be able to see well and clearly, come and join me here on the carpet. Come on down, or come on up. To the carpet.
You know what?
Oh, there's lots of room. Come on right on into the carpet. There, come on down. Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're going to do something special today. You know, every time a baby is born, it's like the whole world sings. And every time a new person comes into the world, we have a special way we want to celebrate that they're here. And we're going to do that today with some water and with some words. We're going to welcome Oliver and Caitlin to be part of this spiritual community and to be making their mom and dads are going to be making some promises about some ways that they want to live with their children. And so I invited you up here so that you would have a front row seat to be part of what we're going to share with each other. We gather here with Oliver's family and with Caitlin's family. We gather here to celebrate each of them as children of the universe, sparks of divine light. With water and with words, we celebrate these young lives as spiritual beings in a human experience. We're going to use water to signify their connection to life. Above them are the stars. Beneath them is the good earth. And within each of them is the light of life. We bless Oliver and Caitlin with water and our deep hope that, like the earth, their lives will be very well grounded. And we'll share the gift of light with each of them, with our prayer that their spirits will shine over the course of their lives. And we'll bless them with our words that they may know that we share their journeys for meaning and for purpose. Holly and Weddy, by what name is your son to be known?
Oliver Chokorolin Lovett.
Oliver, we welcome you to the embrace of this community. You always have a place in this circle. We invite you to nurture your spiritual life with us. Holly and Weddy, do you seek to celebrate Oliver's belovedness and to live with a consciousness that each of us is part of an all-encompassing spirit in which we live and move and have our being? Do you seek to provide opportunities for your children, Trinity and Oliver, to learn and live the wisdom of Jesus of Nazareth and the other great wisdom teachers of our world, embracing discovery and creating possibilities for your children to experience the sacred more deeply? Do you each seek to live with an open heart, open to the spirit of life that is within you and among us and between us, open to the wounds and joys of creation and the needs of the world? Do you seek to teach your children to celebrate the sacredness of life, to cultivate a spiritual life, to live with respect in creation, to love and serve others, to seek justice and to know goodness? Heather and Jason, by what name is your daughter to be known?
Caitlin Abigail Hall.
Caitlin, we welcome you to the embrace of this community. You always have a place in this circle. We invite you. Heather and Jason, do you seek to celebrate Caitlin's belovedness and to live with a consciousness that each of us is part of an all-encompassing spirit in which we live and move and have our being? Do you seek to provide opportunities for your daughter to live and learn the wisdom of Jesus of Nazareth and the other great wisdom teachers of our world, embracing discovery and celebrating possibilities for her to experience the sacred more deeply? Do you seek to live with an open heart, open to the spirit of life that is within us, among us, within you, between us, open to the wounds and joys of creation and the needs of the world? Do you seek to teach your children to celebrate the sacredness of life, to cultivate a spiritual life, and live with respect in creation, love and serve others, seek justice and know goodness? Weddy and Holly, Heather and Jason, you are godparents for each other's children. And so in that role, I ask you, as you recognize that many nurture and influence your children, in your role as godparents to each other's children, will you guide and encourage your godchildren by your words and actions and support their spiritual development? And will you seek to share your wisdom and experience with each other's children, helping them to learn enduring values that will ground their lives in meaning and purpose? Friends, as a spiritual community, we pledge our support and care. As a baptizing community, we commit ourselves to be a source of support and encouragement to your families. We offer to share our stories, wisdom, and experience with you, and we welcome you and your children to journey with us as we seek to deepen the awareness of our spiritual essence and our social responsibility. Trinity and her grandpa and grandma are going to pour some water for the fountain that we're going to use to baptize Oliver and Caitlin. In water we are born, of water we're made, with water we're refreshed, by water we are sustained. With water we children of God, recalling the stories of life stirring from water. For the stories of water that are passed down in our tradition, for the birthing waters of our primal beginning, the grieving waters of a drenched earth, the liberating waters of Exodus, the life-sustaining water in the wilderness, the healing waters in the stories of the generations gone before us, for this and every wet beginning which gives life and life again. May we be joined to one another as a beloved community of water and word, of story and song, of spiritual values and practices.
May it be so.
Oliver, I want to show you something. Can you touch this too? You want to touch it? See what it is? Oh, is it wet?
You want to try again?
Is it a little bit cold? Yeah. Oliver Chikoro Lim Lovett, I baptize you in the name of love. May the source of love be your strength. May the love we learn in Jesus of Nazareth be your guide. And may the spirit of love, from which you come and to which you return, be your wisdom. Caitlin, do you want to see something? Try that. Touch that. Yeah, is it cold? A little bit? Yeah. Caitlin Abigail Hall, I baptize you in the name of love. May the source of love be your strength. And may the love we learn in Jesus of Nazareth be your guide. And may the love from which we come and to which we return be your wisdom. There's some people I'd like you to meet. So Caitlin and Oliver. And Trinity. Friends, this is Trinity, and this is Oliver, and this is Caitlin. And we call you beloved. Let's come meet some other people. Friends, this is Trinity Lynn Lovett and Oliver Chikoro Lim Lovett and Caitlin Abigail Hall. And friends, this is Trinity, and this is Oliver, and this is Abigail. And there's some people over here that do important things, and they make some wonderful sounds. This is Trinity, and this is Oliver, and this is Caitlin. And if we go back to the middle, there's some people who are watching us from a few miles away across the prairie, friends in Saskatoon. This is Trinity, and this is Oliver, and this is Caitlin.
And we call you beloved.
We'll make our way back over here again. And Grandparents Hall are going to come and light your candles for us. Caitlin and Oliver, receive these candles that symbolize the light that shines in each of you. May it be a reminder to you that our light is joined with yours. Moms and dads, may you tell the story of this day often, that each of them might know that they are deeply loved and embraced in life, come what may, and that this light might shine as the blessing of a shared life of love and light that is alive in us and in your children and in each of you, not only today, but always. Blessed be. Blessed be your children, and blessed be the light that shines in their lives. Thank you for being part of this celebration of water and light and promises. It's your opportunity to have a bit of fun in Kids Spirit or in preschool or in Youth Cafe. So I invite you to make your way to your programs and to have a wonderful morning together. I'll see you in a while.
Good morning. Good morning. Mary Oliver is no stranger to this congregation. She is one of the most cherished and celebrated poets of the natural world, having published almost 30 volumes. Mary Oliver died on Thursday at age 83. And although her voice is silenced, her words continue to inspire and challenge us. We celebrate her life and her profound witness with gratitude. And I invite you into her poem, Why I Wake Early. It's in her collection published in 2004, of the same name. Hello, sun in my face. Hello, you who make the morning and spread it over the fields and into the faces of the tulips and the nodding morning glories, and into the windows of even the miserable and the crotchety. Best preacher that ever was, dear star, that just happens to be where you are in the universe, to keep us from ever darkness, to ease us with warm touching, to hold us in the great hands of light. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Watch now how I start the day in kindness. In the work of a celebrated and remembered poet.
As you know, the Hebrew and Christian scriptures open with two mythological stories of beginning. One's a poem and one's a narrative. Here's the poem that begins Genesis 1. In the beginnings of the heavens and the earth was astonishingly empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit hovered over the waters. And Spirit said, "Let there be light." And there was light. The light was called day, and the darkness was called night. Again a voice said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of the water, and let it be a separation between water and water." And the expanse was made, and it separated the water that was below from the water that was above the expanse, and it was so. The expanse was called sky. And then a voice said, "Let the water that is beneath the heavens gather into one place, and let dry land appear." And it was so. And the dry land was called earth, and the gathering of the waters, they were called seas. And the voice said, "Let earth sprout with vegetation." And it was so. And the earth gave forth vegetation, seed yielding herbs according to its kind, and trees producing fruit in which seed is found according to its kind. And the voice said, "Let there be lights to separate between day and night, signs to mark the seasons and days of the year." And it was so. And there came to be two great lights, a light to rule the day and a lesser light to rule the night, and there were stars. And the voice said, "Let the waters bring forth life, and let there be creatures to swim in the waters and fly over the earth." And there came to be every living being that swarmed in the waters, and every winged bird according to its kind. And the voice said, "Let the earth bring forth living creatures of land, those that walk and those that creep." And it was so. And there came to be diverse creatures of the earth according to their kind. And it was all good. And the voice said, "Let there be human ones after our image, after our likeness." And so it was that the human ones came to be, and it was all very good. Such is the story of heaven and earth. In this ancient poem, we also hear the Universe story. In the words of Brian Swimme, published in a booklet called Journey of the Universe that he co-published with Mary Evelyn Tucker. Brian Swimme has a PhD in mathematics, and he is an evolutionary cosmologist who teaches that subject for many years and who is a remarkable storyteller. And here's a small piece of his story, sharing something with us about the great balance of our wonderful planetary home.
Here's the essence of the universe story. The stars are our ancestors. Out of them, everything comes forth. Stars are dynamic entities. They're born, they develop, they even die. Star birth occurs when gravity squeezes together a cloud of atoms so tightly that nuclear fusion ignites in the center. In the process, hydrogen fuses into helium. This nuclear energy expands outwards and opposes gravity. So stars represent an amazingly creative balance between the powers of gravitational collapse and nuclear explosion. And once a star's nuclear fuel is spent, there's nothing left to prevent gravity from collapsing inwards, causing the death spiral to begin. This super concentrated dot of matter, which we call a supernova, explodes outward with the power of 100 billion stars. And as it expands, it creates all of the elements: phosphorus, oxygen, carbon, gold. These are spewed out into the Milky Way galaxy, and then the whole process starts again. They drift as a cloud, and then they collapse, give birth to a star, the Earth. It's by this stupendous process that we can say the stars are our ancestors. It's just such an amazing discovery. The carbon atoms of this beet and of the lettuce and of, our brains, our skin, all of it passed through an intense explosion of a star. In pondering the source of the sun's power, we can now reflect on something no earlier humans could know. The sun is converting 4 million tons of its mass into energy every second. All of life feeds on the roaring energy of the sun. Our solar system then is a self-energizing womb of creativity. And all of this had its start in a cloud of dust. It was really difficult for humans to realize that we live on a planet circling a star. I mean, we were here for hundreds of thousands of years before Aristarchus, 2,000 years ago, right here on Samos, realized we are spinning around the sun. That was such an amazing insight that it vanished, actually. And it wasn't until Copernicus discovered it again in the 16th century that humans really began to absorb the fact that we were on this planet. Let me use these vegetables to explain our solar system. So here we have the sun, this cabbage as the sun. Now, actually, if this were to be in scale, this cabbage would have to be 1 million times the size of this pepper. Budgetary considerations made that impossible, so you just have to use your imagination. And what we've learned in the 20th century is about the composition of the planets. First, we have the large planets. So we have Jupiter here, and we have Saturn and Uranus and Neptune. These are large enough to hold on to all the lighter elements so that they actually are gaseous. Too small to be a star, but yet too large to be solid. The other kind, then, we have indicated here with these rocks. So we have Mercury, then we have Venus, we jump over to Mars. These are the rocky planets, most of which are solid. But there's one special rocky planet. One that's not too small and not too big. One that's not too hot and not too cold. One that's not exactly solid, but not exactly liquid. We call it home.
When I think about balance, early childhood images come to mind. I think about how each of us struggles to balance our bodies in space. First, we figure out how to balance our heads on the top of our body. And then in time, we begin to experiment with how to balance on our seats and then on our feet. And if our bodies are able to be upright, we intuit and we experiment with balance until most of us are able to sit and stand and walk in an environment where gravity works against our uprightness, trying to hold us to the Earth's surface. Many of us as children even figure out how to balance on one foot. We learn how to hop. And with some coaching and a few bloody elbows and knees, we learn how to balance on two wheels when we ride a bike. Some of us are really good at it, and we even learn to do it on one wheel and ride a unicycle. And many of us discover how to balance our body on two little thin blades. We learn to skate. And we come to admire the extraordinary acts of balance that we see in athletics, in yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong. We celebrate those who master balance in the most exceptional ways. But without very much conscious thought, our embodied life relies on bones and muscles having the strength and the capacity to balance our bodies in this atmospheric environment we live in. And over the course of our lives, we come to take balance for granted, really, until something compromises our equilibrium or limits our mobility. And we speak about balance in other respects in our lives, too. Besides the physical acts of balance, we hear a lot about eating a balanced diet. And we love to talk about having balanced budgets. And we talk about achieving a work and home, family balance. And we talk about maintaining the balance of nature and holding the balance of power. Which leads me to think that it isn't a skill we just unconsciously master as children. And however we are abled in our bodies, balance is a practice that we have to work at our whole lives. And one of our very best teachers of balance is the universe itself. Science is helping us to remember that we're here because of the extraordinary balance that birthed our planet and created the possibilities for life to emerge. Brian Swim in another clip talks about just how precarious that is.
In the 1920s, the cosmologist Edwin Hubble trained his 100-inch telescope at the night sky. He was trying to determine if our Milky Way was the only galaxy in the universe. Not only did he discover the universe is filled with galaxies, he also determined that all of them are rushing away from each other. With Hubble's work, humanity learned that the universe began with a massive explosion that has been carrying the galaxies apart for billions of years. Another special quality about the universe is the rate of expansion. If the rate of expansion had been slower, even slightly slower, even 1/1,000,000% slower, the universe would have recollapsed immediately. That would have been it. After 1,000,000 years, the universe would have imploded upon itself and formed a massive black hole. On the other hand, if the universe had expanded a little more quickly, even slightly more quickly, even, calculations show, 1/1,000,000% more quickly, the universe would have expanded too quickly for structures to form. It would have simply exploded. There would have been no galaxies, no structure, no life, nothing but dust for all time. So what we've discovered is that we're living in a universe that is expanding at exactly the rate necessary for life and structure to come forth. It could be then that even though we can't call the early universe alive, we can understand it as life-generating.
So both science and, as we heard a few moments ago, poetry remind us of our Goldilocks position in the universe, the multiverse. We're here on a planet that's not too hot, not too cold, in a universe that didn't expand too quickly or too slowly, on a planet that's not too solid and not too liquid, because it's just the right distance from our life-giving star to create the conditions for living cells to evolve. To be in right relationship with that living star that Mary Oliver said is just where you are in the universe, to keep us from ever darkness, to ease us with warm touching, to hold us in the great hands of light. We're here in the great balance of Earth's reliable revolutions around its sun, its dependable orbit in space, and its pattern of turning on its own axis. A world that was conceived and birthed by the rhythm and balance of the universe, of stars emerging, shining and dying, of cells growing and dividing and finding patterns of increasing complexity, of water and land having just the right, necessary arrangement between them. And one of the great creation myths of our tradition reminds us we're here in the midst of a great balance of light and darkness, earth and sky, land and sea, and the diversity of creatures with whom we live. Once upon a time, there was a displaced people. Their songs had fallen silent. Their temple was gone. Their rituals were all but forgotten. All their familiar landmarks had been erased. The prayers they had learned as children from their parents were a foreign language to their children. They had lost everything that made them who they were. And they found themselves miles from home in a terrain that wasn't home, amid a people who spoke a language that wasn't their mother tongue, amid a people whose traditions were completely different from theirs, whose gods had different names than theirs, whose sense and expression of sacredness was different than theirs. And they had lost their equilibrium, and they sought some kind of order in the midst of their chaos. It was that people who gave us that enduring song that opens our Bibles. A piece of wisdom about rhythm and balance. In a dark time, there was the dream of light emerging out of darkness. In a chaotic culture, there was the dream of terra firma emerging under them again. Of life stirring from impossibility, of it being good again. The very form of speech in that text teaches its wisdom. Even after centuries of translation, the rhythm of the phrases tell us we're hearing music. The rhythm of the music of the soul in poetry or song. And we're hearing the poetry of a disoriented people. A people who could no longer find their balance. They could no longer move their feet to dance because they couldn't hear the beat of purpose. They could no longer give voice to their song because they had lost its tune. It's that rhythmic repetition of longing that comes down to us from a homesick remnant of faithful Jews who'd been displaced from Jerusalem and other parts of Judea, taken captive into Babylon, what is today Iran. Babylonians had conquered their country 2,500 years ago, and we have this old and timeless song. Their song was a way of singing the long story of becoming, of life balancing and rebalancing itself, of disorientation and reorientation, of extinctions and emergence, of the essential relationships in the web of life, the essential relationship between day and night, and light and darkness, and earth and sky, and land and water. Like this ancient people, we know dissonance, and we know harmony. We know order, and we know chaos. We know balance, and we know disequilibrium. And maybe we are learning our need for balance is not so much about doing more of something and less of something. But balance is about placing ourselves in right relationship with what is. Just like we had to find the right relationship with our seat and our feet. We celebrate a ritual like baptism, honoring the relationship we have with the very primal element of water and the essential elements of our lives: love, nurture, the community of life into which we welcome our children. And knowing not only our responsibility to feed their bodies, but also to feed their minds and feed their spirits, we enact this ritual to root ourselves again in the balance of being. To remember that life depends on right relationship with our planet, with our cultures, with our communities, with our families, and with ourselves. Today is a day to think about how we keep our balance. What do we need to do to renew our relationships so that we are in right relationship with what is? What do we need to do to give our attention to feed our bodies and our minds and our spirits? To honor the very delicate balance that makes life possible. It's not about striving for perfection. It's about the teeter-totter into the wiggle-wobble of balance. Thank you to each of you who make the dance and balance of our life possible here as a spiritual community. Those of you who give your time, as many of you did this week, to preparing meal for Operation Friendship, as many of you in Saskatoon do and have done with the Chop and Chat program for Integrated Community Ministries. For those of you who were here this week to help, or other weeks to help with Food Bank, to be part of the many things we do in spiritual community, to express our relationship to the community in which we live. And we also express our gratitude for the financial support that you give, and a reminder of the ways that we can contribute, either by cash or check, if you're in this room, into one of the boxes you find at the back, online anytime at our website, by pre-authorized remittances, or by your purchase of grocery cards, which are available in the foyer today as well. We all support the work of the Mission and Service Program of the United Church of Canada, who sponsor a variety of projects in Canada and around the world, and Gail is going to come and share a few moments with us about that work.
The United Church of Canada is one of 25 denominations who are members of the Canadian Council of Churches. This group was originally established in 1944, but the Catholic Conference of Bishops didn't join until 1997. Today, the Council includes memberships representing 85% of Canadian Christians. It's considered the broadest, most inclusive ecumenical body in the world. The goals of the Council are to share in seeking reconciliation, peace, dignity, and justice by promoting dialogue, understanding, and theological reflection. It also offers support to military and prison chaplains across the country. The Council takes part in United Nations conferences on world development, refugee settlement, and human rights, and participates in an annual World Religious Leadership Summit. The Council has a number of different working groups, and in some cases, it has prepared resource materials that congregations can use. Their topics under study presently include human trafficking in Canada, intercultural leadership and learning, interfaith topics, faith and life science, and perspectives in religious freedom. The current focus of the Faith and Life Science Group is to critically assess both the opportunities and the risks of biotechnology. Project Plowshares, which is an organization working for peace, is also a division of the Canadian Council of Churches, working with governments and civil society to advance policies and actions to prevent wars and armed violence. The latest Project Plowshares newsletter, which I will put out on the table after, contains a number of thought-provoking articles on a variety of topics, including arms control, refugees, and one article entitled Social Media and Conflict. While I have no doubt that United Church members will often see things very differently from some of the others on the Council table, it's important that we be there to stimulate discussion and present those differing viewpoints, to offer some balance. Our participation in the Canadian Council of Churches is supported through the Mission and Service Fund. Therefore, we too are part of this work when we contribute to the Mission and Service Fund.
With the Hall, Lim, and Lovett families, we've been able to celebrate young lives whose light has come into the world. We also get to celebrate today a light that has been in the world a long time. In fact, it will be 100 years on Friday, January 25th, that Marian Seguin came into the world and began to shine her light. And we want to sing to her this morning. And we also want to invite you to come and share birthday cake as we leave this circle and celebrate with her the anniversary of her light coming into the world a century ago. Friends, we take our good light into the world. We shine with all that we are. We take the uniqueness of our presence and our being into the teeter-totter of balance we seek each day, each night, with one another. It is our greatest task and trade. And fittingly, the last word should come from the oldest person in the room. Over to you, Marion.
Okay, it's very important to me to be in church today. I joined the United Church when I was 17 years old. It's quite a few years now, I'm sure. And I remember Mr. Lester, he was a bilingual minister in Bonneville, Alberta. And he was praising me and, oh, you'll be doing good work and all that. And I have been doing good work, maybe, maybe not, I don't know. I'm getting old and I'm not able to do as much as I used to. Anyway, I want to thank all of you for being so kind and remembering me. And I've been kind of spoiled with all this 100 years. Yeah, thank you all very much.